40 years ago, you could go out and get a week shopping and it would last you a week in the fridge, and it was no problem. You had to go to about four or five shops to do it, and it was expensive, but you did it. And then supermarkets were introduced, and there was an outcry against them at the time because it meant more pressure on small businesses. It disadvantaged people who didn't drive, and there were concerns that a monopoly could end up threatening quality. Anyway, we adapted to the new system and began to shop for a month out of town with a car, and we fill up our fridges, cupboards, and deep freezes. And small businesses began failing. But the prices did go down, and for a long time, our food budget wasn't a problem. We just had to plan a little better and go out and do that big shop on payday. And then gradually, the problem we were warned about, the monopoly, began to take effect, and supermarkets began to dictate the way that we fed ourselves. Naturally, prices began to go up and quality began to go down, but not all at once. Supermarkets started to introduce value brands. There would be three or four brands of the same goods at different prices, from basics to standard to luxury. And we got what we paid for. Everybody could still eat, but you paid for a better diet and a better taste and the look and feel of the food that you were eating. Well, that was the situation years ago, but since then things have changed. Supermarkets were so profitable, there was competition for a period between them. And while this was good for us because there were real incentives to shop, it was to maintain the diverse ranges and competitive edge against rivals. Supermarkets were driven to niches whereby companies would assume different identities, but in parallel, they would copy each other on initiatives on which they were working. Meanwhile, the economy took a downturn and inevitably prices rose again. This was when loyalty cards came in. At the time, it was a logical idea. Customers were, after all, entitled to a reward for the support they were giving. We had ridden out the higher prices and kept these companies in business, and everybody by now understood economies of scale and the value of our spending to the companies we were trying to empower to keep feeding us. In the meantime, other trends were affecting the world of food. Packaging and waste were becoming issues in the public conscious. Processed foods were being discussed, preservatives, animal rights were being considered. Supermarkets were pressured by these popular trends and sought to cater for these changes in our requirements. But here the supermarkets rebelled. They answered the pollution element by charging us with the cost for packaging and spent their money downplaying the health effects of additives which they were using to extend the holding time allowed for storage of their wildly diversified stock. Now we entered an age of constant concerted efforts by the whole food industry to pass blame and cost onto the customer while lying about the quality of the goods they sold. And perversely, during this period, it was tacitly understood that people were to suffer whatever band of shopping they brought. The poor would comfort themselves in the knowledge that those shoppers who bought only the top ranges in the high-class stores are poisoning themselves because of the quality they paid for only meant better taste and satisfaction, not a better diet. It seems justified when you're eating food which, while substandard and lacking any pleasurable sensation, was at least nutritious. The poor had to eat miserably, while the rich had to sicken themselves with toxic rubbish. That was the situation about 15 or 20 years ago. And observe, there's still something like a power parity between the customer and the supplier. The supplier, however, wasn't satisfied with this, and their next move has to be examined. Supermarkets had enjoyed the pressure of competition, customer freedom of choice, and all kinds of political consumer pressure. They weren't prepared to exist precariously any longer, though. Neither were their shareholders, so they went out to war. 5 changes were introduced in short order: home delivery, automated checkouts, cost for bags, GMO food, and vegan options. You see, the supermarket's answer was to streamline and reduce cost. Home delivery reduces footfall, hence the waiting time, thereby increases throughput. Automatic checkout reduces staff costings. Charging for bags eliminates secondary costs. GMO increases holding time, shortens supplies lines, and fosters a common culture between affiliates. And vegan food promotion grants them access to the carbon markets. And now we come to the modern age. COVID suited the supermarkets perfectly. Indeed, it would have been impossible without their help, and that was the last nail in the coffin for all the businesses who were not playing their game. Post-COVID, their power is complete, and it's easy to see the road ahead and what's about to happen to us now that these companies have globalist and government support, and we have no power left to dictate to them.